Well, another point that I was just going to bring up, Josh, was I don't like how you can get 10 seconds for taking out an opponent, but apparently you get 20 seconds for running an extra cooldown lap like Dorian Penn did in the
Oh, I
second
know.
F1 Academy race.
Do you know, I've looked back time and time again. It's not her fault because the FIA have put a board directly where the checkered flag is. So when you're waving the flag, you can't see it from the cockpit. And even worse, it was windy, and the person waving the flag didn't do what I would do and properly wave it. Just went up and down. So it's blowing straight in the wind, going up and down. You couldn't see it. And then by the time she came around for the second lap, they weren't there. They'd all left the race control building, so there was no one there to press the red flag button. There was no one there to tell them already. It was a complete mess. And to be fair, I don't think you should be given a penalty for winning the race twice. It's not on. It's the FIA's fault, and that should be a sporting penalty or a financial penalty, not something that affects her on track for their stewarding mistakes. Honestly, it's ridiculous.
I mean, Josh, I have a question for you on this. Can Mercedes potentially appeal this penalty given to Dorian Penn, or have you heard anything about that? Or is this something you can't appeal? Because I think this is something, if they're able to, this is something that they should be able to appeal, because I'm still upset over this Dorian Penn penalty. I didn't think it made any sense. It's just ridiculous to just take away a win just like that over something, it just seems really silly to just take someone's win away just because of that.
There's two things. There's two sides. There's a case where you can say you couldn't see the flag, and there was no, like usual, we see flags and that lot around the circuit. There was nothing. So there was no flags around the circuit. There was no yellows or reds or anything. There was no cars slowing down because she was first. And by the time she got right around, because it's such a long lap here, 6 kilometers, everyone was already back in the pits. And the other two were still behind her for Abby Pulling, and I can't remember who finished in third. So they hadn't got there yet. So it really, there's a way that they can say, they can appeal it up to 30 days after. So yeah, but the FIA can then reject that appeal by saying, yeah, but look here last year, because in Formula 2, we had a guy do exactly the same thing, and we gave him a race ban. So you've got off lightly here. So I don't know, it's give and take, but there's no consistency. Race ban, 20-second penalty. Doesn't make sense. So I reckon they should appeal it. They've got 30 days to do it.
Absolutely. I hope they do. I think it was definitely a harsh penalty that everyone was so incredibly shocked. It sent ripples through Twitter, I know, incredibly quickly when the news came out. And to see such a harsh penalty given, I think, especially so early on in the season, when there is potential room for having like a massive appeal that could easily be justified. I'm surprised that it wasn't just a discussion that they had with the team, or maybe a fine that they had for the team. Seeing a win taken away from a young driver who dominated the weekend was really unfortunate, and hopefully this is a learning moment for the FIA and for Formula One Academy and all of the drivers. We'll definitely have to kind of keep a close eye, I think, on how those teams are treated in the future when it comes to potential penalties like this, given that the drivers are essentially at the F4 level and they're still very much in that phase of learning how to do all of this driving, especially on such a big stage as they accompany Formula One around the world.
All right, well, we'll have much more on this on the Women in Motorsports show later this week. And again, I can only echo what everybody said here. It seemed to me at most a reprimand would be a penalty that may be justified. This crime here, if you can even call it a crime, because to take a race win away for simply essentially running an extra cooldown lap is just absolutely ridiculous to me. But we'll have more on that later in the week.